Good morning. It is gorgeous to see you. It's beautiful to be in here. It's just a bit too moisty outside because the Wi-Fi doesn't work very well when it's moisty. So it means we're inside with the rocks, and that is a plan with no drawbacks. My biggest challenge is to decide which one to show you first, and it's this one. Golden calcite. Isn't it beautiful? It's kind of, you can see it's all sparkly and clear on top, and it's a little bit misty. It's a bit of a random thing to say top and bottom, but see, this section is a little bit cloudy, and the other one isn't, and I love that. I love that it's not perfect, because heavens, who is? It's really quite optical. You can almost see through it. And it's just beautiful. Yellow calcite, it appears to almost match my hat, but that's because of how the light is striking it. And hello to you, Faye, it's great to see you, gorgeous. Just enjoying the rocks. And something else. I think we're all about layers today, which seems appropriate actually. Good morning, Nora. This is onyx, right? We're used to onyx being black and white. Good morning, Jan. It's funny, I can see your little faces popping up. Facebook isn't saying anything about who's on, but, you know, I'll find out in the end. But onyx can be many colours, and this is green and brown, right? Isn't it fabulous? So there we go. And look, you see, it's got sections within itself, you know. Yes, there are layers, but then there are things that go across. It's just beautiful. I love this. I mean, it reminds me of agate, but it's not agate. It's onyx. So there you go. And it reminds me of the storms on Jupiter, you know, that big, swirling, massive thing on Jupiter. Well, it reminds me of that, even though it's the wrong shape. So there we go. One more. Oh dear, it's a little bit dusty. I haven't dusted the crystal shells for a while. This is agate. See, I told you everything was about shapes. Julian, good morning. This is fabulous. And of all things, this slice of a big old agate geode, which has not been dyed. This is its natural colour, so, you know, you could say it's carnelian, but it's agatized. We found in my husband's mother's house after she died, and we had to clean it out. And, you know, it was buried in all kinds of stuff, but there was this fabulous thing. So, isn't it beautiful? And look, it's got little, you know, little toothy bits of quartz there. Something just fell off the side, but obviously not off the middle. And it's beautiful. If you can see close up, see it's kind of ribboned around the edge. Try and get the light through it for you so you can see what I'm seeing. It's just beautiful detail, and obviously it's very reflective. Look, you can see my phone, and you can see me. Oh, geez. Look, we've got the Hall of Mirrors going on. Sanchia, good morning, lovely. It's great to see you. Okay, I'm getting out of the Hall of Mirrors. I was just in the Hall of Mirrors this morning, and it was amazing. I had a really incredible meditation experience today. But I'm not going to talk about that now. I'm going to talk about it in Heartfield this evening because I want to share it because I hope it inspires people to do the work, because it sure inspires me to do the work. So what we're talking about today is still really what I'm doing, and it's about this business of healing trauma. Because one of you asked a really poignant question in the live yesterday in the comments, and I thought, no, I want to talk about that because it's a common thing. Because I've been saying, you know, the whole thing of going into your past and looking at things and analysing them and pulling them to pieces and talking about them, you know, I mean, there's value in that, but only so much. And it doesn't seem to really change things. And anybody who's had significant trauma or difficulty, hi Jocelyn! And by the way, I don't really put myself in that category, but it's interesting how much I'm finding I'm releasing anyway. Will know, you know, they've been to the therapist, they've done everything, and still, pretty much sometimes at the drop of a hat, kaboom, it all goes off and it's there, right? It's just there. It's like, I've done this to death and it's still ruling me, you know, and so you go and get more healing and it still doesn't change it. And so, yeah, that's the challenge that I want to try to address with the little bit that I know, with what I've experienced for myself, not being a trauma expert. Very purposefully not being a trauma expert, because I realise it's not what I'm really good at, it's not what I really want to do. So what I know is that any powerful experience brands itself into our neurology and our biology, and it can very easily become who we are. Joy, it's been yonks, it's lovely to see you. It just becomes who we are, because that powerful experience, it stamps itself literally into the architecture of the brain. Any new experience, be it good or bad, if it's emotionally powerful, absolutely ecstatic, or really painful, makes the brain pay attention, make new neural connections to either say, oh, I really want more of that, or I really want to avoid that. That's what happens. And if it's really painful, then, even if you just have to explain to a doctor how you hurt yourself or what happened to you, or you're doing a court case about something awful that happened, and you have to keep telling the story every time it fires and wires those connections, and every time you fire and wire those connections, you get associated chemistry in your body. And not only does that chemistry condition you to feeling like that, it literally makes it normal for you to feel like that. It can fire up the epigenetics of disease over time, because that's just what happens. How we think and how we feel literally affects our epigenetic expression in real time, and if we habitually think and feel a certain way, it's going to push genetic buttons. You can't avoid that. So, you can have, in a different context, you have a perfectly healthy person who's going through their life, having a great time. They have a series, usually it's more than one thing, or it's one very traumatic experience, or it can be just a series of difficulties, The shit just lands and everything goes wrong, and then they come down with some serious health condition. And it's because they've just spent in a period of extended stress, and their body, the epigenetic switches get pushed. We have camels on the bridge. Oh, bless you, Julian. Yay! So this is the thing. This is how it physically works. And I know this is fact. This is basic neuroscience and very, very basic, less than 101 epigenetics. This is how it works. Which is also why, if you think about thinking and feeling and thinking and all of that conditioning and the genetic buttons that get pushed, and it becomes your identity, because literally there's all that firing and wiring, like your brain has changed to reflect the fact that you've had a really powerful negative experience, and then you've thought about it and relived it and relived it and relived it, and for however many years. So your biology is reflecting the fact that that's happened. And that is why it's so hard to change, and it's also why talking about it doesn't really help at that fundamental level, because the energy of that trauma is stuck in your body. Literally stuck in your body. Now, how does that happen? When you have that painful thought, initially the painful experience and then the painful thoughts, PTSD, anxiety, depression too, looping thoughts, right? They just go over and over and over, this continuing cascade of stress hormones. What happens is, because it's not processed, those stress hormones, that chemistry is also energy. Like the body's taken energy. This is what actually happens. It draws energy from the vital field of life force that the body has to keep itself going, and it turns it into those stress hormones. And because there's no tiger to run away from, there's no threatening warrior to fight, there's nothing to do with all those stress hormones. Those stress hormones literally, the energy of them and the chemistry of them literally get stuck in your body, and it's just there. And it causes pain, it causes disease. It is in your body, and that's why the trigger goes off in your brain and your body is suddenly back in that thing that happened 24 years ago. Because it's there. That's why talk therapy can't shift that. Talk therapy has great value when you need to just look at things and explore stuff and work things out. I'm not saying no about that. I work stuff out with myself all the time, and sometimes I work it out with my husband because he really knows how to hear me. Or other people who can actually hear me. But a lot of the time, I don't really care what happened. Yeah, and you're right, I just want to reset it. I just want to overcome the emotion. Rebecca, g'day gorgeous. Now, what do I mean by overcoming the emotion? And why has that got nothing to do with the subject matter, with what happened? Well, because no matter what it was that happened 5, 10, 20, 35, 43, however many years ago it was, remember, when we have an emotional reaction to something, somebody pisses you off, you cut your finger, you lose something, or something wonderful happens, whatever, the initial, when you fire that connection in your brain and the chemistry pulls to your body, that refractory period of the emotions, like losing your rag or being really pleasantly surprised or whatever, that refractory period of that emotion only lasts in the chemistry for 90 to 120 seconds. That's it. After that length of time, be it good or bad emotion, we're keeping it going. Now, how do we do that? By firing associated networks in our brains, by thinking the thing over and over again until it becomes so hardwired that good or bad, it's a habit now, that we just think and feel this way. It is not who we are, but we think it is because it's so pervasive and it's just going round and round and round in your head. And if what's going round and round and round in your head is that I'm a happy person, the world is a supported place and I love life, then it's fantastic. But if it's something other than that, well, it's not fantastic, it's something else. So, how do you break out of that when you've done it to death and you're fed up with trying and your body still hurts and your mind is not at peace and there is no peace and, there's no escape, right? It does empower. And that is exactly how PTSD works, right? It just, how do you overcome the emotion? Well, you have to recognise, you have to understand that there's a thought that generates the emotion. The emotion is actually not the truth of who you are, and you have to understand that the chemistry which your body's conditioned to, which says this is how I feel, this is normal, is not actually normal. It's become normal for you. And if you want much more understanding and detail about how this works, and by detail I don't mean blinding you with science, I mean beautifully explained. Please go and get one of Dr. Joe Dispenza's books and read it and listen to him on YouTube, because you'll learn a great deal about how this actually functions. And it's such a relief to understand, oh, you mean this isn't me and there is a way I can change it. Yeah, it's called neuroplasticity. The brain has the ability to change. And if you stop firing that thought, which pours the chemistry, which, that's the thing to do, and I've got to get on talking about that, then you are not going to feel that way. You're going to feel differently. So what you have to do when you're in the middle of this welter of overpowering, right? And I can only imagine what that's like for some people. And it's so overwhelming. Oh my God, I have felt this. It's like, I would love to kick this out the door, but I freaking can't, It's like there's a gang of 20 mongrel mob men of the wrong sort, because some of the gangs in New Zealand, for example, are doing really good things with their communities. It's amazing. But, imagine some fantastical, nasty bunch of really scary people that's crowded into your house and you're tied in a corner. That's what it can be like when this stuff is so in your face, in your mind, in your body, every moment of every day, and you can't get away from it. So, in that situation, drawing on my own experience, which is minor by comparison, but it was major for me, you have to first understand that it's possible to change. And then, because it is, and I've given you the overview, but there's more detail. Yeah, there's no door. You're quite right, Julian, in that state. So, first you really have to slow your brain down, but we're not talking about that today. Not even talking about that today. What I want to say is that in that space, pick one thought, just one, and it might be, I'm useless. My God, I think I'm useless all the time. God, I have problems opening a cupboard door and I think you're useless. Whatever it is, pick one thought that is constantly, and having said that, I was saying it's constantly circling in your head. Maybe don't start with the biggest, ugliest one that's just a huge lion that's roaring all the time. Pick something smaller that you think, okay, yeah, I'm constantly down on myself about that. All right, that's the thing that I think. And I know that when I think this particular thought, I feel this particular way. So what you're doing is isolating a particular thought and a particular feeling that goes with it. What are you doing? You're actually picking a target out of all of the crap that you want to clear out of your house, metaphorically speaking. You're saying, I'm just going to deal with this one thing, which immediately starts to cut the mountain down to size. Now, if you think, oh, feck, Maddie, are you mad? I don't know where to start. That's fine. I understand that. I do. Just the process of beginning to slow your thinking down enough to choose one thought and then identify the feeling that goes with it, that might take you a week to do. Quietly while you're washing the dishes or mowing the lawn or going for a walk, just muse over it. You're going to have to get really soft and gentle with yourself. Laura, it's great to see you. Yeah, Dr. Joe is really lovely to listen to. At least I find him that way. Everyone's different. Jacqueline, good morning. So if that is a massive thing, then just do that. You see, we have to divide and conquer. You have an awareness, and really what you have to do is start to train that awareness, not to be constantly, because that's been normal, right? So one thought, take your time, take the pressure off yourself to even identify what that thought is. So to step it back, just say, okay, this day or week or however long it takes me, I'm not going to put a time pressure on myself because I don't want to set myself up to fail again, because anyone who's in this situation has failed a lot because you've tried. Oh my God, have you tried? Okay, however long it takes, I'm just going to pick one thought, and I'm not going to pick the monster thing. I'm going to pick something that's, sort of small to medium sized. Okay, now if I was going to do that, and you might come up with a list of 3 or 10, okay, and a piece of paper and a pen is quite useful. Would I like to change this one? Would I like to change that one? Just, don't get too carried, don't make a list of more than 5, really. Just pick your top 5 things that come out of your mind as being potentially malleable, right? Just, see, we've got to break it down. The minute it feels too big, back off. Make it easier. Hi, Alicia. Morning, gorgeous. So, piece of paper, 5 possible candidates for thoughts that I might want to change. And then put the feelings next to them. You might find the feelings are all the same. Because what you find, and the reason why just one thought and one feeling is enough, by the way, is because in your brain and in your body, everything's connected. If you change one thought and one feeling that goes with it, you can't help but change everything else. It's like a spider's web. You pull one thread, the whole thing notices. So don't think, oh my God, it's only one thought and there's 50,000 million, gazillion, bajillion left. That's not the point. You change one, you change them all. Okay? So don't sweat about that. Just choose one. And get to know, and you might just have to spend a day or 3, or however long it is, noticing how you feel when you think that thought. Actually, well, how do I feel when I think that thought? And you might even quite consciously decide to think that thought for a little bit to notice how you feel. Don't get carried away, but pay attention. So you're starting to pay attention. And when you start to pay attention, you're observing yourself and your experience. Instead of being in the experience going, you're actually, now you're starting to notice. You're paying attention to how it works. Thinking, okay, so I think I'm useless. And I feel, or maybe you feel, what do you feel when that thought And you might find there's a whole bunch of things. It's okay if you write down 5 or 6 or 50 emotions because you think this one thought. There'll come a point where you think, okay, I'm familiar with this thought and this feeling now. And it might happen in 2 minutes or it might happen in 2 weeks. If you've been thinking, and if it takes 2 weeks, if you just remember, if you've been struggling with this stuff for the last 40 years, it's okay if it takes you 2 weeks to find your way in, to really identify and start to observe and pay attention to the first thought and the first feeling that goes with it that you've ever done this with. That is monumental. If it only takes you 2 weeks after 40 years. Just put it in perspective here. Then it kind of gets, I was going to say easier, but it's different, right? What you then need to start exploring is this. Okay, I think this and I feel that. I know this is la la land, but what would I like to think instead? Really? Because if I thought I'm useless, and I got a super highway to feeling all of those crappy feelings inside my head because I'm so used to saying I'm useless, maybe I can build a different superhighway in my brain that says I'm worthy, I'm lovable, I'm beautiful, I'm, insert your words here. And remember, it's going to feel really wrong. We talked about that yesterday. It's going to feel really wrong to even start to imagine that you could think that thought. And yeah, it's a hell of an adventure the first time you start doing this. I bet you know what that's like, Laura. I'm sure you've done it. So you start to think, well, what thoughts do I want to fire and wire in my brain? What new road do I want to be walking? And when I think that thought, how will it feel? And for some of you, you're going to draw a complete blank for a while. You'll have to imagine. How would it feel? Well, if I really do believe I'm worthy, I'm probably going to feel happy, or I'm going to feel loved, or I'm going to feel relief. I'm going to feel free. I don't know. But you have to get to know that. And then once you get to know it, you can start practicing actually doing it, which is also going to feel wrong. And we're out of time. But you get the idea. You change that one thought and that one feeling, and you start to practice it ahead of the experience. Watch yesterday if you know what the hell I'm talking about. And you will change yourself. You will change your brain. You will change your chemistry, step by step, by moment, by day, by week, by month, by year, by lifetime. You will change. And there are faster ways to make it happen, but this is the core process. You've got to think and feel differently. And if it seems impossible to you, this is how I suggest you start. With one thought and one felt response. And find out what you want to do instead. Big love. I'll see you tomorrow.